Good evening, Hofstra sports fans, and welcome to an all-new episode of Sports Beat right here on your Heat Network. I'm your host, Max Sacco, and as always, we have an exciting show for you tonight. We're talking about our men's lacrosse team, our women's soccer team, and the Pride's men's tennis team. We also have soccer player Sabrina Bryan in studio for an interview. We've got all that and more coming up, so stick around, Hofstra fans, because Sports Beat starts right now. We have Tommy Aquilina in studio for the Week in Review.
Thanks, Max. Now for the Week in Review. It was a busy week for the Hofstra volleyball team. It started Wednesday, October 9th against Northeastern. The Pride swept the Huskies in 3 sets behind Laura Masciulo's 16 kills and 2 blocks. 2 days later, the Pride recorded another victory in sweeping fashion when they defeated the Charleston Cougars. Masciulo once again led the way with 15 kills, 2 blocks, and 2 aces. In their 3rd straight home game this past Sunday, Hofstra had a scare when they fell behind the UNCW Seahawks 2-1. The Pride rallied in their final 2 sets for an exhilarating 3-2 victory. This was Masciulo's best performance of the week, as she had 26 kills and 3 blocks. The 3 consecutive victories improved the Pride's record in CAA play to 4-2. Heading outside, the women's soccer team picked up a couple impressive victories this past week. Hofstra dominated arch-rival James Madison University 3-1 on October 10th. The Pride outshot the Dukes 28-13, with Lucy Porter tallying 9 shots, one of which found the back of the net. In their next match on October 13th, Hofstra fell behind the Delaware Blue Hens 2-1 in the second half before coming back and then taking the lead on Miri Taylor's 88th minute score. Lucy Shepard and Sabrina Bryan each had a goal and an assist. The men's soccer team only played 1 game last week, but it was a good one. Taking on the Drexel Dragons in Philadelphia, the Pride fell behind 1-0 before George O'Malley's 2nd goal of the year knotted things up. Neither team scored in overtime or double overtime, and the game ended in a 1-1 draw. Finally, the field hockey team played their 2nd and 3rd CAA games of the year this week. Hofstra fell to William & Mary 4-2 on October 11th, despite Cammie Larson scoring her 7th goal, matching her total from last season. The Pride then fell to James Madison 4-0 on October 13th, while getting outshot 14-0. I'm Tommy Aquilina, and this has been your Week in Review. Back to you, Max.
Thanks, Tommy. I'm joined here by the wonderful Eddie Fitzgerald and the talented Louis Grosso. Guys, we're going to get things started with men's lacrosse here. A team last season that, at points, looked amazing, and at other points, not so much. What was your takeaways from last season kind of as a whole?
Yeah, they finished 5-9 on the season last year. It was a little shaky, but this year they've got Bobby Casey coming back in net for his junior season. He was a little bit below average last year. The league average was about 0.278, and he was about 2.3 maybe-ish. He's got to step up. He's got to be that leader, keep the goals out of the cage.
Yeah, this team was not happy about being 5th in the conference. They were not. They started off doing pretty well. They were 5-9. And they finished, they didn't play that well in their conference. That's what I saw from this team. That's what I took away, is that teams in their conference, such as Towson, were able to capitalize on the other teams, whereas Hofstra, their past 2 seasons, fell 2-3 in both their past 2 seasons playing against conference rivals. So I think that's where they really need to focus on.
Yeah, that is an area this team needs to step up on, is those conference games. You can play non-conference all you want, but at the start of the season of conference play, your record goes back to 0-0 essentially. You could go 0-16 in non-conference, but go 5-0 in conference and make the playoffs as the 1 seed. But speaking about the Pride team and an offensive force, Ryan Tierney, you give that man the stick, he'll score whatever he wants. You put him on any part of the field, he'll find a way to get to the back of the net. But it can no longer be the Ryan Tierney machine for this team. Who else needs to step up so he can start having less of a load and more of someone else kind of shouldering the burden?
Yeah, Tierney had 42 goals last season, and out of the team's total 126 goals, about 70 came unassisted. These are players like Dylan McIntosh and Riley Forte who need to step into the starting lineup, be healthy all season, and start getting goals and getting more assists for the team.
I agree. I think that if Dylan McIntosh gets the spotlight this season, this team is going to go crazy.
I think we all agree. I think it's a straight flush on this panel that Dylan McIntosh needs to step up this season, and I think if he does, Tierney has less of a load, but also I think some of it goes to Bobby Casey, because if you can have a strong goalie in net who's going to keep the lead, let's say it's a 3-2 game, and if he can hold it at 3-2, all of a sudden Tierney just has to focus less of, oh man, am I going to have to score to come back or tie this game? Now it's, all right, we just got to score maybe one more time to take the lead. I can hand it off. It becomes less of a burden on him and more of a defensive burden. So I think it's time for Casey to step up as well this season, where he can have a bit better of a season in net than he did last year, even though last year was still a very good season for him. Now, let's transition from men's lacrosse over to the women's soccer team now. This team, the complete bipolar opposite of the men's team. They're fun to watch. They're exciting. They make you laugh when you watch. It's so fun. I mean, they beat opponents with ease. Players just cut the other teams like a hot butter knife with butter. They just slide through and find the back of the net like no issue. Of those players, who is your team MVP so far this year?
Well, my team MVP has got to be Miri Taylor. You know, she has scored 4 game-winning goals. She has been clutch with a capital C for this women's soccer team. Not to mention, in that game against Delaware, 88th minute, are you kidding me? Miri Taylor is my team MVP.
I'm going to disagree with Eddie on this one. I'm going to go with the midfielder, number 10, Lucy Porter. If you look back at her stats in her past time here at Hofstra, in 2017 as a freshman, she played 15 games as a freshman that season, scored in both the CAA championship games. It's extremely impressive. And in 2019, she has not skipped a beat. She leads the team with 28 points and with 12 goals, and 8 of those points came from conference play, so she is my MVP this season.
And I disagree with both of you. And I'm going to go with Skylar Kuzmich, the freshman goalie. You're coming in as a true freshman. You're holding down the fort. You're making sure nobody can get past you. And if you look at the Delaware game, it was 2-2. It goes back to the goalie that she's stopping the balls from getting in, and she's still holding it at 2-2 before Taylor's 88th minute goal. It comes down to the goalie. And if you have a good goalie with a great offense like this team has, it can lead to great results. And those great results are showing in the CAA. They've trounced through everyone, a couple games left. Next up is UNCW, the big game. And again, if they win that game, it essentially would guarantee them that 1 seed for the CAA playoffs. 1 and 2 get home field advantage throughout, except if 1 and 2 make the final, then 2 obviously goes to 1. But looking at the rest of the CAA, who is a team we have to worry about looking at this season?
You know, I gotta go with the only team that they sort of struggled against, Northeastern. They're the only team that has not lost to Hofstra this season in CAA play. They got the tie. It was 1-1. You know, maybe you chalk it up to just the ball not bouncing your way or the shots just, going off the crossbar. But Northeastern, they know that they have the opportunity, that they were just 1 goal away from beating Hofstra. That might fuel them as they go into the conference play a little bit more in the tournament.
I don't see this team getting overpowered by a sleeper pick. I really don't. The Hofstra team is in first place in their conference, and I think the only team that matches up to them is UNCW, who's in second place in their conference. And Hofstra's next game is against them, and they could potentially clinch the conference and host the CAA championship here. And so far this season, they're a perfect 6-0 at home.
I'm going to agree with Lewis here. I think it's UNCW. I think there's no team that they have to worry about. I think Northeastern's just a wrong blip. I think it's one of those cases of the ball didn't bounce your way. I'm going to have to say it's UNCW or Delaware. Delaware, too. Those top 3 teams, those are the teams you're going to be facing in the semifinal. In the final, for the quest to get back to the NCAA tournament, it's those 2 teams you have to worry about. Now, quick last question here. Who is the player that has to step up down the stretch here? Quick last question.
It's got to be Lucy Porter. She has been phenomenal all season, but she's got to take it to that next level and be the top goal scorer that we know she can be.
I definitely think you got a freshman goalie. She's definitely got to be the star on defense.
I'm going to say Sabrina Bryan. I think if you're hot, you got to keep up the hot streak for the rest of the season to come. Now, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we get back here in studio, we're going to have the aforementioned women's soccer athlete Sabrina Bryan with us for an interview in studio. Stay tuned.
Page 4 that the projections need to be earthquake next Thursday.
Seriously? Thursday? Can't do that.
This is really inconvenient.
I have yoga that day.
I have no time for this.
So,
I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
Welcome back. I'm joined by the Hofstra's very own Sabrina Bryan. Sabrina, thank you so much for coming in studio.
Thank you for having me.
So, Sabrina, obviously you're one of the superstars on this team. You are one of the biggest players this team has. But before we got to Hofstra, I think we have to go back to your home. What got you started in soccer originally?
Yeah, I think my parents definitely started me in soccer to make friends when I was younger, and my sister played as well, so it was nice for us to do something together too.
So it was a little sisterhood bonding event. You each played soccer. Do you each play the same position?
We do.
You do? That's cute. Now, from kids to the, not the pros, but we'll call it that, to Hofstra now, you come to the NCAA, you come to Hofstra, you get your jersey for the first time, you get to put it on, you get to put on the uniform. What's that like the first time you got to put on that Hofstra jersey?
It was amazing putting on that jersey. I think it showed that all my hard work paid off. When I was younger, that was my goal, was to get a scholarship for soccer. And so to be able to do that and to step on that field for the first time was pretty amazing.
Now, looking at the team that your coach fields is amazing. I mean, this team really evident of a FC Barcelona team of 2011 when they just seemed to win everything they wanted. You put them there, they probably got the trophy. Now, who would you say is your number two? Obviously, you're in the front, but who would you say you pass to the most, you look for the most? One or two players that you find yourself, when you pass, they always seem to be at the end of it.
I'd say Miri Taylor or probably Lucy Porter. I think with Miri, we both come from technical backgrounds, so we know what the other one's going to do when we pass them the ball. And then with Lucy, I know if I cross it to the top of the box, she's going to be running in and ready to get a foot on it.
Yeah, and she's done that a couple times this season so far, and very recently, too, with Delaware. Now, to your accolades as a whole, as an athlete, you've got a lot of them here at Hofstra. We could decorate a hallway with all the accolades you've gotten. Which are you most proud of so far this year that you've gotten?
I say definitely this past week getting CAA Offensive Player of the Year, or Player of the Week, excuse me. And then I think that helped me show that my confidence was starting to come back. I started off slow, but getting the points at the end is really starting to give me a little boost I need for playoffs.
Well, I think Player of the Year could be coming soon for you based on the results we've seen so far this year. But now, looking forward now for this team, you had the very tough game against Delaware. UNCW is next. How important do you guys have that marked game? Already as important as it is, how important do you guys see that game?
Yeah, with UNCW coming in as the number 2 team, we're definitely ready to show them what we're made of. Like you said, we are 6-0 at home. We're ready to make that 7-0, and we want to be able to host like we did my freshman year.
Now, hosting obviously will mean a lot. What are your goals for the rest of the season besides just hosting the CAA playoffs?
Yeah, we definitely want to win the CAA championship. Us juniors are looking for a 3rd straight win, so that would be nice. And then we also want to make it to the 3rd round of NCAAs to get our name out there more nationally ranked.
Now, you guys did make some waves last year when you did beat Boston College, and you really trounced them. You beat Boston College yourself. How much would that mean to the team if you got to that 3rd round of the playoffs?
That would definitely mean a lot. It would show that every year we are getting better and that we are a team that you need to look out for no matter our record the previous season.
Now we have a little time left. I thought we'd end with a couple fun questions about your team and your teammates. Who would you say has had the best goal celebration this year?
Probably.
You can nominate yourself too if you want.
No, I don't think mine's that good. I'd probably say Lucy Shepard.
All right, interesting pick, interesting pick. Now, who has the best hair on the team?
Freshman Caroline Nuttall.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Huh. And final little fun question here for you guys. Who would you say is the funniest player on the team?
I'd have to say Grace Watson-Carr.
Grace Watson-Carr?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think those are all very good answers. Well, a big thank you to Stephen Gorchov, Rachel Vogel, and Jim Sheehan for making this interview happen, and, of course, to the wonderful Sabrina Bryan for joining us tonight. Don't go anywhere, because Sports Beat will be right back.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Sports Beat. Once again, I am joined by Eddie Fitzgerald and Louis Grosso. But before we move on to our final topic, we have Tommy Aquilina in studio with us this week for the week ahead.
Your week ahead is as follows. The Hofstra men's soccer team will play one non-conference match and one match in conference. First, they'll step outside the CAA tonight when they host the Seton Hall Pirates at Hofstra Soccer Stadium. Then on Saturday, the Pride will travel to Williamsburg, Pennsylvania to play the William and Mary Tribe at 7 p.m. William and Mary is currently 2-1-1 in conference play, while Hofstra is 2-2-1. Hofstra's field hockey squad will also play twice this week, with both games against non-conference opponents. They'll host the Long Island University Sharks at 1 o'clock on Saturday, followed by another game the next day against Rider University. The start time for that game will also be 1 o'clock. The quick turnaround will be a test for a Hofstra team that has not played on back-to-back days yet this season. Going back to the pitch, the women's soccer team of Hofstra has one match this week. It's a big one, as the top two teams in the CAA will be pitted against each other. Hofstra, sitting at 5-0-1 in conference, will welcome the UNCW Seahawks to Hofstra Soccer Stadium at 1 o'clock this Sunday, October 20th. The Seahawks have won 5 in a row since losing their first CAA game to Elon on September 26th, but that loss is the difference between them and Hofstra in the standings right now. And finally, the volleyball team will have two important outings this week. They will be on the road against Delaware on Friday, with that game starting at 6:30. Then on Sunday at 1, the two teams currently tied for second place in the CAA will do battle in Virginia when the Pride travel to visit the JMU Dukes. Both of these games will have huge implications for the CAA contenders going forward. This has been Your Week Ahead. I'm Tommy Aquilina. Back to you, Max.
Thanks, Tommy. All right, guys, let's talk about our Pride's men's tennis team, a team you might not hear about, but truly a dominant team on this campus if you look at them from a retroactive perspective, look at them from the past couple seasons. What have you guys seen from this team so far and a couple of the players?
You know, one person who I've been extremely excited while watching has been freshman Jon Sanelli. In all of his sets this season, he's 8-2. You know, when he dominates on the clay, he has been absolutely fantastic. You gotta love the production out of that freshman.
I'm going to go with Sean Jackson. I think he has been a remarkable player for this team. As a freshman, he was named the Hofstra Athletics Male Rookie of the Year. That's an amazing accolade to have as a freshman. And, you know, he set the program's record of 27 singles wins, which is remarkable. So you know that he's leading this team to victory.
Now I'm going to go with the third player against both of you. I'm going to go with Giacomo Pizzoli. He has 23 singles wins. That's right behind Jackson. And he excels on both singles and double scores. If you can have a dual threat like that, and as a freshman, that speaks volumes for that team. And this is a team that, again, is quietly watched by a couple people, but is a dominant team. But what's interesting about them, and against all other Hofstra sports, I mean, soccer, you play August to November, December. Wrestling is December until February, March. This team goes August to April, with CAA play being in April, and your season starting in August. And now they have the ITA regionals upcoming. We'll get to that in a little bit, but what do you have to do as a team that plays that long of a season through rain, sleet, snow, hail, you name it? They probably have that forecast coming along for them, that you can maintain that endurance.
Well, you know, this is a very young team. You know, their highest ranking members are two juniors, Alvaro Lopez Sanchez and Yusaki Nishitani. You know, these have got to be the guys who have been around a couple of years. They know what to expect during this long season. They got to make sure those young guys are staying fit, they're practicing, they're eating right, they're not getting sluggish, they're keeping up on their schoolwork. These guys need to be the one who lead this team of freshmen and sophomores, you know, to victory later in the season.
I agree. I think leadership is key. I think that drives a team to keep going because, like you said, this is such a long season for this team. And you don't know what's going to hit them. You don't know what the weather's going to be like. You don't know what's going to go on during that time in that long of a season. So I think you need guys that are there, veteran guys that have done this before, that can be there for this team and make it a good season.
Practice, 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 practice some more. That's all you can say for this team. When you have a season that long, you just need to keep up on the clay, on the court, whatever you can do. If it's raining or snowing outside, stay inside and just bounce the ball up and down on your racket. Maybe bounce it against a hard wall in your basement. You just have to keep practicing. The minute you stop practicing, the minute you go, oh, the weather's bad, maybe we can cancel today. And maybe coach doesn't have practice, you need to practice by yourself. And I think both of you can attest that. You're both former high school athletes. The minute you give up is the minute your team starts to fall behind and you don't have as good as a season as you want. It's all about practice. Well, we're going to take another short break, but stick around for the audience's favorite segment, FaceTimes.
Your son wants to get a cat,
I'll really take care of it.
but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals
25.
Good job.
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
The moment you've all been waiting for, this episode's installment of FaceTimes. Eddie, take it away.
Thanks, Max. You know, it's no secret that in the past 20 years, NBA organizations have been trying to build super teams in order to win championships. Whether it was the Big Three in Miami, Golden State, San Antonio, or even Los Angeles, super teams have dominated this league. In the past 20 seasons, only 9 different teams have won a title. And while that may be exciting for the fans of those particular teams, it comes at the cost of losing the casual fan. You know, there will always be those diehard fans who watch all 82 games and don't care when their team loses in the first round of the playoffs. But to average Joes who likes basketball, their most common point about why they don't watch the games anymore is, what's the point of even watching if we know who's going to win in the end? See, this lack of parity brings enjoyment to the casual fan only when there's an upset or an underdog story. For example, Dirk and the Mavs beating LeBron and Wade in 2011, or Kyrie taking down the 73-win Warriors, or even Kawhi Leonard's impeccable playoff run to bring down Golden State just last season. However, for the first time in a long time, there are no more super teams. This 2019 offseason has saved the parity of this league and is set to bring us some great basketball night in and night out. LeBron James got his second star in Anthony Davis to dominate in LA. Russell Westbrook and James Harden have teamed up once again, this time in Houston. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are ready to cement the Jazz as a top team. Jokic and Jamal Murray make Denver a tough outing. Rookie of the Year Luka Doncic gets a full year of Kristaps Porzingis in Dallas. And the Warriors added D'Angelo Russell to pair with Steph Curry. Damon McCollum are looking to bring a trophy to Portland. And did I mention that Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard has now teamed up with Paul George in Clipperland? I mean, that's just the Western Conference. The East is also jam-packed with strong teams like Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons in Philadelphia. Kemba Walker and Jason Tatum in Boston, they're trying to get back on track. Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond in the Motor City. The Pacers get a healthy Victor Oladipo to add to their already strong core. You know, Kyrie will be steadying the ship this season while two-time Finals MVP Kevin Durant is recovering from his Achilles injury in Brooklyn. And last, but certainly not least, reigning league MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo looks to add more trophies to his collection over in Milwaukee. You know, with all these teams hungry for a ring and the path to getting there looking more open than it's ever been before, I don't believe any basketball expert can tell you with confidence who will be hosting the Larry O'Brien Trophy in June. So NBA fans, get ready, because this season's set to be the best one yet.
With the New York Yankees receiving all the spotlight as they face their league rival Houston Astros in the American League Championship Series, the New York Mets are faced with a challenge of their own. The only difference is that the Yankees face their challenge on the field. The Mets, who were just barely eliminated from playoff contention at the end of the 2019 baseball season, ended strongly with a record of 86-76. This ball club was 10 games under 500 by the time of the All-Star break and remarkably turned their season around, having the best record in baseball at 27-10 from the All-Star break to the end of August. Terry Collins joined the team as their skipper in 2011 and led his squad into the World Series after entering the playoffs as a wildcard team in 2015. Since the Mets' successful postseason runs in 2015 through 2016 and the unfortunate retirement of their skipper Terry Collins, the Mets front office chose to pick up former Indians pitching coach Mickey Callaway as his replacement going into the 2018 baseball season. He was quickly let go, however, following the 2019 season. Since he ended his career as manager 2 games over 500, did the Mets make the right move letting Callaway go, even after almost leading his team into the playoffs the past regular season? Will the Mets show more interest in former Yankees manager Joe Girardi, or will they decide going for a rookie manager with interest in the team such as Carlos Beltran, so they can have more control over his managerial decisions? This offseason should be very interesting, and I'm so anxious to see who'll be leading this new and improved ball club into the 2020 Major League Baseball season.
Legendary NBA player Bill Walton once said, "Life is easy when you're hot. But what happens when the ball bounces the other way? You just keep getting back up and climbing up." This quote could not be more true for Detroit Pistons point guard Derrick Rose. Back in 2011, when Rose was on the Bulls, he was seen as the hero who would be the next Michael Jordan and lead the Bulls to their 7th NBA title. Tragedy struck in April of 2012 when Rose blew out his ACL in his leg against the Philadelphia 76ers, resulting in him being out for the 2012-2013 season. But more than that, having him lose a lot of the firepower and athleticism he had back in 2012. Rose would stay 2 more seasons in Chicago before leaving for the New York Knicks in 2016 during free agency. Rose would bounce around the league as a bench warmer until he landed with the Minnesota Timberwolves in 2018. He soon found his footing and slowly worked his way up from bench warmer to 6th man to finally the starting point guard for the Timberwolves. In 2019, the highlight of his time in Minnesota was on Halloween of the year before, where he scored 50 points against the Utah Jazz en route to a 128-125 win. Rose would end up averaging 18 points per game by the end of the year, his highest since his last season with the Bulls. Now at 31 years old and playing for the Detroit Pistons, Rose is looking to make the final step needed to complete his journey back to the top after being at the bottom after injuries to his legs. Derrick Rose is a prime example to never ever give up no matter how bad the circumstances might be, because there's always a way to get back up and begin working your way up to the top again. Well, very basketball-heavy FaceTimes if you ask me, but Lewis, I can appreciate a good baseball thrown in there as well.
Thank you.
But I think the big question here, and Eddie, you teased it a bit during your FaceTime, but I'm going to ask it, and you have to pick a team, both of you. Who is winning the NBA title this year?
Well, do you even need to ask me? Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a big Philadelphia 76ers fan. You know, who's going to guard this team? You've got Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Al Horford, Tobias Harris, Josh Richardson. You have the defense. You have the shooting. Ben Simmons made a three-pointer.
It's preseason.
He made a three-pointer.
It's preseason.
It's happening. Philadelphia 76ers, count it.
All right, I'm going to go for the sleeper pick here. I'm going to say the Brooklyn Nets, strictly because of the momentum going into this season. You have Kyrie Irving on the team. You have KD on the team now. This is a team that made a run last year late in the season. And when you got guys like that on your team now, the momentum is insane. They're going to be great.
I just want to point out, you called the Nets a sleeper pick. That team is projected to go top 3. I just want to let you know that, Lewis. You called the Nets a sleeper pick.
You're going for the Clippers or the
I am taking the Clippers. I'm taking the Clippers on the sole reason that team is stacked. That team kept a decent core of bench players. It's not like the Lakers who just dumped their whole bench and brought in a whole new set of 30-plus old men. That team kept a young bench with a couple old guys like Patrick Beverley to kind of watch the throne a bit, and now you add in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and an owner in Steve Ballmer who's willing to throw all the money he wants into that team and redesign their jerseys. That team is the team to watch out for, and that is the team that I think can win the NBA Finals and make the 76ers look like the rebuilding, tanking 76ers from a couple years ago. Mark my words, mark my words, mark my words. Well, sadly, that's all the time we have for this episode of Sports Beat. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at HofstraS.B. and tune in to a Halloween-themed episode on November 6th. Until then, I'm Max Sacco. Have a great night, Hofstra sports fans.